as a whole who has an open DCFS case, and I would step in to offer that family resources and skills to prevent the removal of the child.
I can find something wrong with anything. Again, behind every rainbow is a cloud. But what I started practicing is I would talk to Pauline or I would talk to Mama, and I would say, okay, I have to find something I like about what she's doing and let her know what that is, as versus telling her there's something, you're not doing this right, or you're doing too much of that.
There are only two emotions. It's love and fear. And all of them are fueled the same way. So fear fuels fear, love fuels love. We're all responsible to choose.
From what we see is true, we do not have the dinner table conversations because parents have had to work and they're out of the home.
In the heart of America, a family stands tall. Bonds of love and unity, holding us all. In the heart of
Pauline, and then Sean,
and Talia is my granddaughter.
and Talia.
Talia.
Pauline, Sean, and Talia. Right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. There's so much division out there and whatever, but the biggest thing is making sure that we look at ourselves and say, how are we showing up? We got a lot of generations here tonight.
We are now family. And so last week we were cousins. All the children are our children, and we as adults are the mothers and fathers. I know when I moved in here, Cheryl, I didn't know anyone. So I better go out and step out and so that when that time arrives, I'll be able to bring resolutions come much easier when you're familiar with people. My daughter-in-law, Pauline, who's a social worker, and on her lap is Talia, raise your hand. And then my son, Sean, is in the back. This is a young couple with 4 girls, and the oldest one just went into the Navy. Pauline, can you give us your idea of what peace is in the nation?
I am a social worker, but I am a DCFS worker. I'm a child protective specialist. So my job is to ensure the safety and well-being of children. So I investigate child abuse and neglect. And what I did notice, a lot of family have these issues that's involving the department because they lack resources. They also lack family support. So it's not like they are negligently, blatantly disregarding their kids' safety and well-being. Is that they don't have the support or they don't have the resources to guide them. A lot of them lack like parenting skills. It's like a lot of calls we got coming in is coming from the neighborhood, it's coming from the neighbor, the school, our community. It's coming from the husband, it's coming from the wife, it's coming from the grandma. So the concerns that's coming to us is from the people who's supposed to be helping out that community, who's stepping in and say, hey, I see that your son was outside by himself. Are you in need of a babysitter? Do you need me to step in and watch him while you rest? I think that the problem can be more solved if we as a community say, hey, what is it I can do right now, right here, as your neighbor, as your teacher, as your pastor, as your friend.
So that's to the point we were talking about, Pauline, about how do we add to someone's life or how do we multiply in someone's life. Tell me again, Pauline, how long you've been doing that?
13 years now. And then I work as an intact worker that was keeping the family intact. So we were working with the family as a whole who has an open DCFS case. And I would step in to offer that family resources and skills to prevent the removal of the child. So now I'm actually the investigator. We are short staffed and we are short resources, and even the resources we have, there's a wait list because there's a demand for these services that can't meet the needs of the people. Wow, this is a community crisis. This is a problem.
You're an expert in your lane, Pauline. Like you see it day in and day out. Thank you so much for what you do.
I think James wanted to weigh in on that.
I married a social worker, and your job sounds an awful lot like what she was doing, Paula. My ministry is the Natural Family Foundation. This is key. A child needs a mother and a father. And if they are not there for starters, you're going to have a problem with that child because they're going to spend the rest of their life trying to fill that vacuum of a missing parent. I did it, tried it with drugs, with sports. Nothing could fill it. Nothing could fill it. We have no fault divorce, which means when you get into a marriage, you got one foot in the door and one foot out the door. And what you're doing to children when you take a parent away from them is, to me, child abuse. I know that the world shifts itself around your aim. And I personally believe, because of the way I was brought up in a broken home, father didn't want anything to do with me, put me down, and I was causing bad things to happen. And I want to swerve that into where this nation is right now. There's not going to be a civil war. We as Americans are still better than this. And we need to start thinking in positive ways. And that means that Pauline, you and I and John and everybody on this call need to look for that thing in common. I can, trust me, there's nobody that can do this better than me. I can find something wrong with anything. Again, behind every rainbow is a cloud. But what I started practicing is I would talk to Pauline or I would talk to Mama, and I would say, okay, I have to find something I like about what she's doing and let her know what that is, as versus telling her there's something, you're not doing this right, or you're doing too much of that.
I like that solution. That's a good one.
Yeah, thanks for putting us back on track. James, by the way, is one of the founders. Peace Pledge. Like Cheryl, you said, we must multiply the peace, and it has just a small cost and not just smiles, but we would like to get support in this endeavor. If you haven't signed up for the Peace Pledge,
If you go to globalone.org, you can find the Peace Pledge right on the front page. And just like James was saying, how do we turn what's happening on November 5th into something that actually pulls us together stronger and change that narrative? I like that a lot. Do you hear a lot about the election? Is that kind of not in your space too much? I'm just curious.
I hear about it every now and then, but it's not like I hear it a lot.
Cheryl, when I was coming up, that was part of the dinner table. All elections, that's something that has changed because
What's
we
the dinner
discovered.
table? What's the dinner table? What is that? Do the families get together? Do they get together? Really? That's old.
You're right. Everybody takes their plate and goes to another room.
Cheryl has already developed over almost a 20-year period an international program called Kitchen Table Conversations. It starts first and foremost with me and my family around that dinner table. We can't get everybody there all at the same time, but perhaps we can leave the plus by just us two sitting down for a particular meal. Mama Joy, what I love the sort of spirit with which you're voicing this idea of how do we develop the next step of where does America go after the election, irrespective of whoever wins. We want to have a respectful type of outcome without violence. When those first 7 years of life take place, we are literally like a of everything that we're experiencing stored inside every one of us. Now, we also have what's called a frontal cortex. This is responsible for about 5% only of all of the decisions and choices that we have in our lives from a creative perspective. Now, think about that. 95%, everything back here is the subconscious, terrible things that many times pitted family members, sadly, are stored there, impacted on the choices and the outcomes of what happens in our life. We have very strong political feelings. If we can recognize the impact that our youngsters can have from us, we can either be divisive or we can multiply goodness from the sorts of discussions that we can have in an adult way.
We're also Chicagoans. We're Southsiders. I'm a contractor in the area. We're all human. That's all we need to know. I think this is beautiful what you guys are doing.
I have a math class where every day we're meant to do a group assignment, the one's half of the classroom. So we're always in groups, either with some people we know, some people we don't. We always have to bounce ideas off of each other, make plans, see how much we all know, and then help build each other up and help each other learn.
When COVID first started, we decided to sell everything and grab a camper. We started traveling the country and we volunteered on farms and intentional communities, and we did everything as a community. Everybody had their clothes in their backpack, so our best dressed was our best dress. There was no materialistic, there was no COVID, nobody got the COVID. We traveled 3 years. We had places to stay all around the country. In Columbus, Ohio, I started a couple of community gardens. We have to stop dwelling on the problems and look at the solution. and understand the solution will always be there as long as we don't dwell on the problem.
David, and I know your path being on the road and being in and out of communities and homeschooling your son. There are only two emotions. It's love and fear. And all of them are fueled the same way. So fear fuels fear. Love fuels love. We're all responsible to choose.
Don't expect an outcome. Look at it as an answer. Allow it to come to you. We're going to make this happen. Let's just shine our lights and everybody will come to them. Because love and energy grows and grows. And that's how the church works. They put love in everybody and now it gets bigger and bigger. I'm glad I'm on this love train with you guys, and I'll be here to support for a long time.
Anita, do you want to add some comments in?
My name is Vanita Payne. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I am a twice retired educator. I taught at the elementary level for 30 years. I'm an intervention specialist. And so they put out the call. So I've spent a little time with young people. And from what we see is true, we do not have the dinner table conversations because parents have had to work and they're out of the home more. And so our young people are left to fend for themselves. There are opportunities to try to bloom conversations with parents, whether it's the trip in the car, driving to school, walking to school, grocery shopping, whatever it is, there are opportunities for familiar conversation. We've gotten away from being our brother's keeper. And every now and then, someone's going to have a fire at their home. Someone's going to lose a pet. Someone's going to lose a loved one. Someone's going to lose a job. So those are things that happen, but they also can bring us together and help us to get to know one another. I was sitting on my porch today. I live directly across from an elementary school. Car pulled up. The kids were out at recess. They were looking over at the schoolyard. Then you, as the neighbor, the responsible adult, you're going to look for that person in the car. Are they just checking on their kid, or do they have an ulterior motive? So just the little things we can do to build relationships in our community.
I want Sean to speak on, share your experiences in the garden with the family.
I know Pearl has started it and called it the community of joy. The whole basics of a community just ties into just social hygiene. Like physical hygiene, we floss and brush our teeth daily, but sometimes they get put on the back burner. That goes with social hygiene, like sitting down at the table, communicating with our neighbors. I don't think of it as a destination. You never comb your hair one time and you say, never gotta comb my hair again. Or you say, what's this point where we could just sign for the peace project and we're just done with it, like it's a destination. I feel like it's a lifelong work. As long as society exists, there has to be that form of culture has to be maintained.
I used to always say when families connect at the kitchen table, it is about that time at the kitchen table, but really it's about what happens when they leave that table and how it is that they show up in the world and what they're getting, how they're being filled in that space at the kitchen table so that we can actually go out and be a part of the community, be a good neighbor.
I'm reading from the Election Peace Pledge. Just as a child needs both a mother and a father, our country needs all of us. Working together, respecting one another, and upholding the principles that unite us. This is not just about the outcome of an election. It's about the values we instill in the next generation. Okay, great.
In the heart of America, our family stands tall. Bonds of love and unity.